This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers, that is 2-3 page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 609, entitled A Non-Communicating Dialog Between a Masculist and a MGTOW. This is part 2, carrying straight on. Prof. Hugo de Garis. Masculists see MGTOW as a necessary condition for men's lib, but not sufficient. What is also needed is the menfairing of the gender laws, so that men don't remain manslaves to fluffy parasitic women. MGTOWs are the historical equivalent of the feminist consciousness-raising stage in the 60s. Feminist leaders then moved on to change the gender laws, women fairing them. Men need to do the same. MGTOW is mere halfway housery. MGTOW is not enough. Capitals.
Prick. MGTOW has done more for men in the last few years than all the MRA combined have done in the past 3 decades, and all without fighting, marching, protesting, or any other female/feminist thinking/strategy, like you are advocating. I've read a continuing stream of articles by women about women, such as Woman cancels dating events because no men show up. Woman marries herself, a tree, a lighthouse, a bridge, a Ferris wheel, and or a dog. Women complain about the wage gap, but then complain that they can't find men that make as much money as themselves. Men are dropping out of universities at an accelerating rate and going into trades, also living a minimalistic lifestyle and avoiding women altogether. Men walk away as women are assaulted and refuse to stop to help stranded female motorists. Bridal shops and jewellery stores going out of business. Women complain that men won't help them at work or in public anymore. All of that is MGTOW influence. Men protesting themselves, living for themselves, and giving women the independence they ask for. Fight off that rapist yourself, you strong, independent woman. If she wants provision, get a job. If she wants protection, learn to fight. Get a dog or a gun. If she wants sexual pleasure, buy some new batteries. Procreation? Go to a sperm bank and be prepared to support it for 18 years. Masculists/MRA/tradcons won't get that much done in the next 3 decades. MGTOW did it in a few years. Prof. Hugo de Garis. I don't deny what you said, all of what you said above, but as a masculist, it is simply not enough. Men will not be liberated, in brackets, which masculism is all about, given that the very word masculist is the obvious male equivalent of the word feminist. That is, masculism does for men what feminism does for women. That is, it liberates them from the oppressions of the traditional gender role they have and from the gender crimes committed by the other sex on them. It concerns me as a masculist that the MRM are so politically impotent. I even made a video on that topic, number 229. The main difference between the MRM and masculists is that masculists are much angrier than rather wimpy MRAs who tend to play the victim role rather than are true fighters. For men to be liberated in their billions, gender laws need to be menfaired. The para-paternity rejection right and the OPTAB, OPTAB, obligatory paternity testing at birth for all births, need to be legislated. GECs, GECs, Gender Equality Committees, need to be created that consist half of female feminists and half of male masculists in the parliaments, so that the gender issues of both sexes are dealt with equally. Most feminists are so badly brainwashed by feminism that they truly believe that gender oppression is a one-way street. Masculists are aggressive, powerfully ideological, and hugely more persuasive than MRMs, which is probably why the MRM has been so historically piss weak. When a masculist comes across a monoconscious feminazi bigot, that's MFB, who preaches that gender oppression is a one-way street, he bites her fucking head off and harangues her out of the room with a verbally violent attack on her monoconsciousness, and tells her how women oppress men far worse, with women's decades-lasting manslavery, women's divorce rape, women's forced fathering, etc. Masculists are so verbally violent with women, women cannot help but notice their presence. Masculists are strongly influenced by feminism in the sense that the feminists went through two major phases: consciousness raising and political reforms by changing the gender laws. Masculists aim to do the same. To Masculists, MGTOW is merely part of the male consciousness raising stage. The Masculists have yet to achieve their political stage, that is, the menfairing of the gender laws, which is the next major step for men's liberation.
Prick. I really do believe this. I'm not being mean about it, even though I am a prick. All political attempts by any group of men to change the systems will have the same effect as a single man pissing in the ocean. Women fear MGTOW because there's no head to cut off. And every MGTOW wins by not playing and living for his own best interests, not fighting for them. Just walking away, leaving them to themselves and warning uninformed men. No pursuit, protection, provision or procreation for women. My wealth, health, time, peace, choices, fitness, work, eat, drive, drink and whatever else I want, and none of it can be legally stolen by a woman with government assistance. I don't see any advantage Masculism has over MGTOW. Again, not being a prick about it, just logic.
Prof. Garis, spelling it out for simple-minded MGTOWs. Imagine the feminists took a MGTOW-like philosophy in the 70s and did not bother to push for equal pay for equal work, no equal access to the professions, no abortion right, no control of the divorce courts, no minister for equal rights for women in the parliaments, etc. Then women would have far fewer rights in practice than they do today. I think most people would agree with this. Similarly, men need to have equal rights with women on sharing the burden of earning the living by pushing women very hard to FIP up and not expect fluffy style to parasite off the labour and money of a man. Similarly with women's divorce rape. The divorce courts need to be thoroughly reformed so that one father in four does not get butchered in the fluffy feminist dominated divorce court system. Women forced fatherhood on men, since men have no legislated paternity rejection right and no OPTAB, OPTAB, obligatory paternity testing at birth for all births to block women's paternity fraud. It's obvious to me, and I don't understand why it is not obvious to you, that billions of men would be a lot better off with the menfairing of the gender laws, as exampled in earlier sentences. To Masculists, you MGTOWs lack political vision. Sure, if millions of men go MGTOW, that's going to impact heavily on women. Masculists don't deny that. But Masculists see clearly that society needs to be FIPPed. Women need to be FIPPed. Men need the para. Divorce needs to be reformed. Society needs to be made a FIP society. GECs, gender equality committees, need to be set up in the parliaments to menfair the gender laws, or men's lib will stagnate at the consciousness raising stage, which is where MGTOW is at today, and will not move on into the political stage, changing the gender laws as the feminists did in the 70s. To Masculists, you MGTOWs are seen not only as politically myopic, but as unambitious. When millions of Masculists harangue MFBs, that's monoconscious feminazi bigots, out of the room, then things will change. MGTOWs will not be exploited by fluffy parasites, that's true, but the deeply oppressive gender laws against men will still be in place and hence will continue to greatly oppress men. Masculists aim to remove these horrible, decades-lasting gender laws against men, so that if that happens, society, men in particular, can thank the Masculists for it, not the MGTOWs, who are politically passive and useless. I don't understand why you don't understand. It seems such a trivial point that society needs Masculism to menfair the gender laws. MGTOW is useless for that.
Prick. If logic, reason and winning are simple-minded, what better do you have to offer? Question mark. I've been reading your manifestos and not seeing anything better. No marriage, no divorce, no cohabitation, no common law / domestic violence / sexual assault, false accusations. Avoid women at work, in public, be polite / professional / Pence rule protected. Reading your material presents an external locus of validation. Let it go, man. Let the world's problems go. Look inside, find some peace. Point out the landmines, but don't run through the minefield. You're a man. The world doesn't care, never did, never will. They will pave over your dead carcass. Forget your name, and all to smooth the road for women. Knowing this, why wouldn't you / men want a little victory / peace? Question mark. Aim to change the gender laws? Question mark. So if that happens? Question mark. Yeah, and if my aunt grows nuts, I'll call her my uncle. You're fighting fog with a stick. You will do nothing because you can do nothing. MGTOW has made more change by not fighting than MRA has in 30 years, and more than Masculist will do in 100.
Prof. Hugo de Garis. Defeatist. You have a similar attitude to Sandman, one of the most prominent MGTOWs. That is, he simply accepts the current gender political dominance of the feminists. I've always felt he lacked political vision and guts. You remind me of Bolivar's famous quip when he tried to unify the countries of South America before the railway, and found it so hopeless that he compared it with, quote, ploughing the sea. One of the main reasons why Masculists take a very angry, hateful approach to gender politics is that hate communicates. Masculists are abolitionists, and look at what abolitionist hatred did to remove Negro slavery. To Masculists, manslavery is a war issue. It fills Masculists full of hate for women who manslave a man by not bothering to fib up, expecting to live off the labour and money of a man for decades of his life. Fluffies and fluffy feminists are vermin to Masculists. We hate them and aim to kill them in a sex war by totally ignoring them, not even pumping and dumping them. That's not so different from the MGTOWs, but the Masculists go further by pushing for changes in the gender laws and telling young women that they are babyless because men refuse to give them their sperm due to the toxicity of the divorce courts taken over by the hated fluffy feminist hypocrite genociders. Masculists aim to not only fill men with hate against the man's slavery, etc., but to fill young women full of hate against the fluffy feminists, so that the latter feel the hatred coming from both sexes. I think an essential difference between the MRM and the Masculists, despite the fact that both want the gender laws menfaired, is that the MRM tend to take a victim approach, e.g. Farrell, while the Masculists are full of hate, anger, and are at war against fluffies and fluffy feminists, aiming to kill them off slowly. To Masculists, hate is a far more communicable emotion for men than is victimhood, that the MRM prefers. I've noticed that since Masculist ideas have been on the media, the manosphere has become more hateful in general. That suggests that hate sells better than victimhood, or than MGTOW-like defeatism, which is so contemptibly wimpy and useless.
Prick. If MGTOW is wimpy and useless, and in fact have accomplished more than you impotent Masculist / male feminists will in the next 100 years, I guess that makes you even more wimpy and useless by a factor of 100. MGTOW is not defeatist. It is winning by not fighting. In what world is winning being defeated? How can you not see how trapped you are? Your mind is trapped. Your eyes are blinded by your own ideology and desire for external validation. Notice me, senpai, SAD. Prof. Hugo de Garis. You keep missing the point, you moron. MGTOW does not aim to menfair the gender laws, so men will thus continue to be massively abused by women with their manslavery, their divorce rape, their forced fathering, etc. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com.
author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man's Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 600 plus Masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.